other tournaments. RastaFish, on the other hand, he's just kind of a guy that's been around for a long time. Almost kind of a, a little cheeky action. Look at just what he's doing in the camera. He's pointing, kind of giving a little coy look to the camera, if you will. I appreciate that.
We like a coy man, don't we?
Yeah, just a little playful, I think. Just kind of having fun. I remember RastaFish from when he filled his opponent's hand, Osintolol, with coins off the Berkeley bully. And then, of course, Osintolol very infamously burned his Archmage Antonidas. And consequently threw quite the fit on camera. It was very funny.
It was low-key the best meme of that year, I think. Just the picture of Sinto with his arms up in the air.
And the thing about RastaFish is that I was actually fairly close to picking his lineup because it was something that I was looking for, which is an aggressive lineup that beats aggro because it's playing things like Secret Hunter. And I feel like Secret Hunter is a deck that was under the radar that most people weren't thinking about. That and Q-Block. I ended up picking one from each of those lineups instead of it, but it doesn't surprise me at all that RastaFish is in a pretty good position right now, 3-0, looking to see if he can pressure the Druid out of the game. I think a lot of people feel like Hunter can't beat Druid, but I feel like that's not necessarily the case here. Sorry, Secret Hunter can't because there's so much armor game.
Yeah, it's not the best matchup because most of your plays as the Secret Hunter have fairly strong counterplay from the Druid. If you go wide with a Spellstone, they go wide with a Plague. If you go for Rexar, they just win in the late game anyway. So RastaFish got off to a respectable start with the Beast package in this deck, which really separates it from the Spell Hunter in the way that it functions, which does help against Druid a fair amount. If you can hit Bear Shark in particular and Houndmaster, there's just nothing the Druid can do.
Yeah. Not everybody is playing the Bear Shark lists, but they generally do have a little bit of that early game with Crackling Rays and Maws you guys see. I think actually that is the difference, the Acidic Swan Boost versus the Bear.
Oh, right, okay.
But I do want to say something about the Spellstone, is that even if they play Spreading Plague, I mean, they still have to answer your wolves. And then you get to continue to push damage either through Houndmaster or kill commands, and it's still a lot of damage to deal with, and that's only if they have Spreading Plague.
And even if they do, maybe you just hit the Mossy Horror. That's why it's in pretty much all of these decks. One of the biggest advantages of playing a minion package as opposed to the spell variant.
You can see Subject 9 being picked up. That's one of the new legendary minions, and one of the reasons why Secret Hunter has gotten a shot in the arm, if you will, which says Battlecry, draw 5 different secrets from your deck. It doesn't put him in play like Mysterious Challenger from the Grand Tournament, but you get a handful of cards, and that's really powerful for many reasons. One, of course, to buff your Spellstones, to make sure you spend your mana, but also to thin your deck to ultimately get things like Deathstalker Rexar, which is kind of like your backup win condition, because if you're playing Subject 9, a lot of times the games are going a lot longer. So it helps you improve the consistency of your deck significantly. So that, plus tracking, gives you a ton of abilities to find the actual card you want.
Yeah, that is really the underrated aspect of Subject 9. So much so that I know Ball Control, who kind of created, or at least was the pilot of this deck for a long time in Subject 9 Hunter, was considering putting Dire Frenzy in his deck just to give him a bit of late game stability, because he drew through his entire deck so quickly with Subject 9 and tracking.
Well, look at that. Tracking thinned out the Subject 9, and then, of course, Deathstalker Rexar comes into the hand. So this is a really important moment here for RastaFish to figure out what he wants to do. Vardu clearly going to just keep playing these big threats, very, very heavy-ended deck with Drakari Enchanter, Bright-Eyed Scout, leaning towards that big Druid deck list. And so RastaFish favoring a little bit of that tempo. And I can't blame him, considering that Druid's at, what, 14? So instead of trying to play it slow, keep your hero power, push as much damage you can, and hey, maybe you get a kill command to finish the game.
I like this a lot. From what I'm seeing a lot of players playing Subject 9 Hunter or Spell Hunter is you don't want to play Deathstalker Rexar as early as you do in Death Rattle Hunter, because you have a lot more ability to play for value with the Death Rattle Hunter with Rexar, because you can cube your zombies, you have more defensive capability. Whereas with this deck, you want to be playing Deathstalker Rexar right at the end to lock out the game.
Man, Vardu's just going to do his best to survive. Does not want to die to any kind of top deck situation. RastaFish picks up a second Houndmaster. So Subject 9 in this spot here has potential to be pretty explosive depending on what hasn't been drawn yet.
And these are some pretty decent options. The Venom Strike Trap just messes with your opponent so heavily because Vardu here, what does he think? Could this be an explosive trap or
a wandering monster?
Exactly.
Or a freezing trap? There's actually a slew of really disastrous things that could happen all the time. You know, the Cobra being poisonous also is very good against this deck in particular. It challenges so many things, so it forces Vardu to hero power and take damage instead of gaining life.
Which means now down at just 6 health. Kill command off the top would just close out this game for RastaFish. And this is what Spell Hunter, or sorry, the Subject 9 Hunter is trying to do. Just get into these positions where it locks out the game through pressure. Death Coil, however, is a fantastic Lich King card for Vardu to get there.
Yeah, a lot of flexibility of that. If he needs to remove, or in some cases, Vardu may need to heal because he's so low.
To my side.
Houndmaster with Huffer here is so nearly so fantastic, but doesn't quite line up correctly here.
Yeah. You do want to deal with that Lich King too, because it is a comeback card. Things like Army of the Dead can just make sure you get no minion damage ever, and then you're hoping for a kill command, which may or may not happen.
Quickly.
Oh, this is interesting.
Just making a big board.
Yeah, but more importantly, the secret being played is explosive trap. And RastaFish prioritizing as much damage as possible.
I wonder if Vardu will attack at all here. I guess he just wants to keep that in play because he's afraid of freezing trap or even just explosive trap to the face to set up a kill command lethal. It's a nice play here from Vardu.
Crackling Razor Maul, that would have been excellent to pair it with the Huffer, but perhaps this can be a really big adapt. Obviously looking for ways to deal with the 8/8, so Poisonous would have been fantastic. Looks like instead RastaFish picks a Wind Fury, but perhaps Deathstalker Rexar can help close the game from this position now, because it seems like it's not going to be able to be done through just damage alone, because that armor gain is too good from the Druid.
Yeah, you need to start finding those cards like Tundra Rhino, Life Drinker, Stone Tusk Boar, even just an Owl for a little bit of extra push through some Taunt. That's the surprise factor that you're looking for, which is so strong against this big Druid.
Yeah, and something really important picked up by RastaFish is he picked up a cheap Ironbeak Owl, which also allows him to press a little bit of extra damage. That Obliterate is actually really important.
And that crucial 8 health total, which means Beast... oh no, sorry, he's changed the hero power, so it would have to be 5 health to even be dying to a kill command here. Ooh.
Well, RastaFish just pretty much taking Snowflip the Penguin whenever possible to give a slight buff to the existing Zombeasts. But this is how Druid turns the game. As long as Vardu is gaining life, and RastaFish is not pressuring the life total, it's going to be kind of tricky here for RastaFish to close the game. We've seen countless Druids be able to make comebacks like this. Although 3 secrets are in play, so it is very intimidating.
Yeah, I believe that's now... I think the first one is a Wandering Monster that was in play, or maybe a Freezing Trap, because the Lich King has been very hesitant to attack in at all here.
Oh, Snipe stricken off the board. Snipe, of course, just for diversity's sake, because Subject 9 is different secrets that you draw. It's not just any secret.
That's right.
Ooh, Secret Keeper is swinging to miss here.
Yeah, really looking for Exploding Bloatbat with a kind of poisonous to get through all of these. Maybe Cave Hydra can be very powerful as well with the any kind of poisonous effect. RastaFish quite clearly setting out his win condition, playing the biggest stuff he can every turn, and just hoping that it gets in there against this absolute wall of taunts.
Yeah, it seems like RastaFish is just really prioritizing dealing with the board state right now. That Ironbeak Owl kind of just waiting and chilling. Man, and this is one of the problems with that I've ran into when I play Big Druid is that in these situations where the game is really tight, I always want to hero power and gain life, but then I'm not really developing big stuff on the board either. And then Bright Scout hitting Naturalize for 5 mana, which is like when you want to play Hadronox and Naturalize, it's almost just like the perfect storm of bad things that happen for Vardu here.
Yeah, this is why 9-cost cards have traditionally been a lot weaker than 8-cost cards, even if their effect is so drastic, like Hadronox. It really took Master Oakheart to push it over the level to where it was worth playing those, because like you said, you're losing out on 3 health every single turn.
Branching paths to gain life and stay alive, and that might give Vardu the time he needs.
Still obviously looking for that naturalizer in his deck to kill off his Hadronox. Try and pull himself back.
Tundra Rhino.
Oh yeah, that's what you want.
And it's definitely the beast to watch out for. Tundra Rhino with Taunt.
Oh, going for...
Oh, he went for a King
Muffler instead. I guess without too many other beasts in hand, he thinks just the cheaper option is better.
This is also very cute, where you get to fill your opponent's hand up so that they... Hey, you never know, they might burn Hadronox.
That's true.
Actually, hold on, I didn't even account for the fact that Mukla has Rush. This is a really powerful 12 damage push here for RastaFish. And he's once again back in the driver's seat. And with no 1-mana Naturalize, Vardu can't set up a big wall anymore.
He has to go for Naturalize. He's still afraid of those 2 secrets that RastaFish has as well, which has stopped him from attacking. But basically the entire game, maybe if he can get his Primordial Drake hit by a freezing trap, even then he has a full hand.
Yeah, this is excellent recognition from RastaFish to just push the issue. Try to stay alive. Vardu gonna gain life again, goes back up to 8, but we all know what that means.
And this was just looking so close
I know.
at the end. Vardu, I thought he'd stabilize there. He had so many taunts in play, but RastaFish, I think, had the perfect balance of getting his opponent's health total really low, then setting up with the Deathstalker Rexar, pushing forward for that extra burst damage to close things out. It was a nicely played.
He's going to keep that deck for game number 4 up against Token Druid, which has definitely been very strong and performing well according to expectations here. How does this matchup play up from your experiences here, Darren?
This can be a bit of a weird one, as Big Druid is basically brought as the champion of Druid matchups against the Malagos and the Togwaggle variants. You're hoping to ramp up so quickly that your opponent can't stand up against it, and then they just die early on before they can do their disgusting combos. It's a bit different against the Token Druid, though, because while you do have some strong counters to it in the form of Plague, Swipe, and the Primordial Drake, they can very possibly get to their win condition of playing a wide board and going spreading play so quickly that they can do it before you play Master Oakheart. Oh my goodness.
Well, I think with the fact that Master Oakheart is in the hand, I don't think you're that sad. And also, I feel like Innervate at 5 mana finally becomes a pretty fair and balanced card. Would you agree?
Yeah, a 5 mana, lose 4 mana.
Yeah, so Mike Donay and Nixar, if you're watching, you know, Innervate at 5 definitely seems a very reasonable cost.
That one's free, by the way.
That one's free.
Oh, there we go. You can now perfectly go Nourish into Innovate Master... Oh.
Into Innervate Hero Power.
Yeah, into Innovate Bright-Eyed Scout, I think, would actually work.
You are correct. I mean, it'd be really funny if for some reason you had, like, Ultimate Infestation, you need to free up your hand space. But not in this scenario. RastaFish picks up his own Nourish. Great for ramping, great for putting out some stuff. But one thing that's incredibly scary is the fact that if you both kind of go toe-to-toe with ramping, Big Druid is in a pretty good spot because they can do a lot more with their mana than you can with yours.
Yeah, you are going to get Oak-Hearted pretty hard when the 9 mana rolls around, which is why RastaFish does want to keep up. He had a lot of options here. We could have seen Malfurion on this turn, obviously, maybe to make some spiders, fight back against any big minions. We could even see a Coin Soul of the Forest on this turn if we wanted to from RastaFish, just because he doesn't have any indication that he will be able to make a wide board on future turns. So maybe he just wanted to go in on it now instead.
Waits for no one.
Did you talk about it on broadcast, by the way, yet, of what Darroch means?
I don't think I have talked about
you-
this on
so
podcast.
Darroch's name is not spelled in the traditional way that I think most people,
Yeah.
people would think. So it's D-A-R-R-O-C-H.
That's right, the
And
Scottish
Darroch.
spelling.
It's the Scottish spelling. What does Darroch actually mean?
So in Gaelic, Darroch means strong and oak-hearted.
Yes!
Yeah. My name literally means oak heart.
Yeah.
And as if the audience didn't hate me enough for replacing Brian Kibler, thanks, because they now hate me even more
Because Darroch means oak.
because it means oak heart.
It means so hard. There you go. Today you learned. And that one is free as well. We're
Thanks,
just
Froda.
free to play, by the way. And free to learn.
The circle of life.
Gamer Sensei Roste thinks he's got a monopoly on that market. Not the case.
Oh man, this is going to be really, really devastating. Considering that Vardu has, you know, the ability to pull. Actually, hold on, he was only running one Shikari.
Yeah.
So actually, it's not as insanely devastating as I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's, with no taunt being summoned either, there's the ability to just deal with the Dragon Hatcher on board. Well, actually, I guess you kill off the Ysera and Spellstone, the Dragon Hatcher, but it cleans up very nicely this board, considering how devastating Oakheart can be. These spiders are nuts from RastaFish. This was the perfect timing with Malfurion.
Yeah, this was definitely a really good spot for RastaFish. Apologies there. I assumed that Vardu actually had 2 Jakari Enchanters. But still, the problem exists of like RastaFish. If he gets this insane board of Whispering Woods, he runs into a Spreading Plague possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be really tricky.
So there was the consideration there, I guess, for RastaFish to forego the hero power there, click on Power of the Wild instead on this turn, but then did run into the possibility, of another Primordial Drake, and you just want to go for that when you're guaranteeing the damage goes through to face.
Yeah. Vardu going to cycle his Wild Growth from this spot, but Spreading Plague is devastating. It is actually the one thing that Token Druid, you know, ironically, the one class that can beat Token Druid or counter it is Druid cards.
Yeah.
So much so that in Token Druid Mirrors, you have to be careful when you extend onto the board because of this exact threat.
We've seen some pretty crazy games because of that, going all the way through to the super late game fatigue stages.
So, because RastaFish's hand to follow up the push is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Savage Roar, Power of the Wild, Branching Path,
It's
that's
insane.
That's crazy damage. But there's also just a lot of health in the way.
So I guess on this turn you could go Power of the Wild, Savage Roar brings you up to 4 attack, and then Branching Paths 1 attack, 1 draw. Because your hand is looking pretty lackluster outside of that. You do want to start drawing through to Ultimate Infestation, Nourish, maybe just another Savage Roar.
Is there any way to split the difference and take it a little bit slower through like Violet Teacher? You could Violet Teacher, Branching Path, then Power of the Wild. Save Savage Roar for the follow-up.
Does then mean you're not pushing forward enough attack to actually clear off these Scarabs in one go.
That's true.
A tangled web.
Which I think is somewhat important. RastaFish does want to win this game sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Vardu definitely has the advantage long term.
Is not.
But looking like through going with it last year is not going to be drawing with the Branching Paths. Just wants to close this game out.
Wow, I respect that. And it makes sense too, given that the +2 attack from Savage Roar is temporary, so this 4 attack could be really useful to get past a Sleepy Dragon.
Yeah. And, I mean, if you're drawing a card here instead of going for plus attack, yes, it gives you more refill if your opponent clears up the board, but if your opponent clears up this board, you've probably lost the game anyway, so you need to go all in on this push here, which I think RastaFish has done a good job of.
Vardu doing a good job staying calm, just slowly but surely taking apart the board, utilizing his health total. Doom Pact.
Not bad.
Yeah, pretty good pickup.
Ooh.
Okay. I mean, you just have a really big board now.
Yeah.
The Violet Teacher and Soul the Forest gives you a lot of potential for the ability to secure a pretty resilient board.
Yeah, very nice play of trading in first as well. You don't want to have too many treants on your board. You want to have the consistent death rattle of, even when they're cleared off, they will be refilling the board yet again.
Exactly. Vardu needs either his Naturalize or Memorial Drake would be pretty decent to just clear up. Kind of.
Yeah.
Oh! Is that what he needed? I think so.
It just gives him the ability to stick those taunts in the way. But in terms of what he's actually got, what is it? Oh, it's the Scarabs. He just gets all the plagues back, which I guess dilutes his pool in a way. But even then, he gets the perfect result.
That was pretty much the best case scenario. Lich King plus a bunch of Scarabs.
Yeah, that'll get it done.
I'm ready to work.
Now this is the big ramp druid, so there isn't Witching Hour. If RastaFish can get past this wall, then it's pretty much just one individual taunt per turn, or the threat of Primordial Drake.
And his hand continues to, or his board continues to be a threat even after this. He can value trade all these Scarabs.
Right.
The Lich King cards in double Doom Pack. I mean, for Vardu, that's so many cards burned if he does go for that, but as a last case scenario, just if everything else fails, we could just see double Doom Pack to completely blow up this board and get Vardu in a position where he can hopefully stabilize after that.
And then you start fatiguing.
Yeah, exactly, straight away.
RastaFish kind of debating how he wants to take these trades,
Death
but
is eternal.
I don't know if I necessarily... Well, here's the problem, because if I leave too much of my opponent has a wide board, they could branching pass me right back and I die. But, you know, if you, like... Your opponent already has Lich King cards, so most likely one extra card is not going to be the difference maker because he's already drawn 2 Lich King cards.
Yeah, I think you just want to focus entirely on protecting your board as much as possible.
Oh, wait, is that lethal?
That's now 12, 13, +6/+6.
Yeah,
that's lethal.
That is lethal. Second branching pass. It's kind of exactly what we're talking about here. Vardu's going to close out this game and tie up the series. And the big Ram Druid comes through, sending it to a Game 5.
Yeah, surprisingly close there, but Vardu showing the power of a ramped up Master Oak card as
Battle Hunter tracking to start things off. And we have one of the most important cards in this deck in Houndmaster Shaw to just threaten your opponent's board development and also push a lot of tempo itself because it's a 3/6 that's very meaty.
it's going to be difficult for RastaFish to deal with this at all. If he goes for Wild Growth into Whispering Woods, it does give him a strong play onto the board, but sure being able to rush out all those minions means that it will just be value trade after value trade for Vardu, which is just too difficult for RastaFish to fight back against.
And it's also an egg that can fight back.
This is one swole leg.
Yeah. That's right. Never skips leg day. Do we Whispering Woods here to try and fight back for the board now that there's an egg there?
I think you have to. Because if they don't deal with it, then you push absurd amounts of damage. If they do, you've just played 4 mana for 6/6 worth of stats. How sad can you be?
And then if they double Death Battle Trigger, that is devastating. Oh my goodness.
Doesn't even have to go face here with Vardu having so much attack on the board, can just play around any kind of wide buff card.
Man, this game escalated really quick.
Real quick, yeah. So RastaFish now has to go for trade all your minions in and Spreading Plague. I don't think Savage Roar and Power of the Wild gets you quite there because it only brings your minions up to 4 attack, which is a pretty big miss on these Devil Swords.
I'm thinking about an alternative, like maybe Savage Roar or something to clear the board, but I agree with what you're saying. I like the Spreading Plague.
Because even if your opponent manages to clear up the Spreading Plague, you just go for another one on the following turn.
Right. And it most likely won't clear it,
Yes.
given that your opponent only shows the ability to clear 3 of them.
Yep.
So if a couple of them stick, you have the ability to maybe utilize some good trades and even buff the board. Oh my.
Yeah, I think you're fairly happy with a Katharina here for Vardu. Just an absurdly powerful turn when it comes down. And with it currently standing, he should be ahead on board when it comes down to it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Both Center Chain Gang, Houndmaster Shaw are fantastic picks in this spot. I think Vardu. That was just a little bit more power on the board.
Yeah.
One Spreading Plague has also been used.
And even then, this isn't worse against Spreading Plague necessarily, because your opponent can't trade in their Scarabs into the Devil Sword. So they actually end up making 3 instead of 4 Scarabs with Spreading Plague with this play.
Whereas RastaFish won't play the Spreading Plague, then he has 2 Branching Paths to consider. Trying to see if he can dig himself a little bit deeper and find better alternatives. But
It's not bad.
the problem does seem to still exist, which is like, how does he deal with the board state if it continues to balloon up? Not to mention that some of the worst is yet to come with like Houndmaster Shaw being behind Cons and then Katharina.
Yeah, it's going to be super difficult for RastaFish to deal with this, as I don't believe he's playing the Naturalize in this deck. I think that's a very recent tech in the last couple days, even of putting a 1-off Naturalize in this token Druid. As he's just going for double draw on this turn, clearly thinking that the plus attack buff to trade into the Chain Gangs wouldn't be worth it, because with this play, he's clearly making a much weaker play onto the board in this turn for the eventual benefit of playing a second Spreading Plague.
Carnivorous Cube comes into hand. Things are still looking very good for Vardu. And the thing is, with Double Plague, that's inevitably going to be used here for RastaFish. That's pretty much Token Druid's comeback mechanism. They don't really have very good ways otherwise.
And Vardu,
Maybe a Spellstone with UI, and that's about it.
that really is all they've got. Vardu playing beautifully around the Plague as well by sticking that Devil Saw inside of a cube, realizing that's basically the only way he starts falling behind here. Because without that, he just has lethal in the next couple turns.
Giggling Inventor can help stall for a little bit at a time. This is part of their criticism against Power of the Wild, of why maybe only 1 copy is necessary. A lot of builds right now that are popular on ladder have seemed to cut the second Power of the Wild because it does tend to be a little bit situational. Part of its power in, say, like Arena is the fact that you can have a 2-drop guaranteed on turn 2, but that's not really that impactful right now in the current standard metagame.
Having said that, we have seen that already in this tournament, didn't we? Double Panther on turn 4, I believe, after a wild growth. It gives you more flexibility, and I think the main reason people are cutting the second Power of the Wild is because they're cutting Teachers as well. And
That's true.
Power of the Wild with Innovate and Teacher is one of the best combos you can do in this version of the deck.
That is also true. Very good point. So, you know, the Houndmaster Shaw has some really funny plays with being able to rush out Devil Swords.
Yeah.
So you can trade in one of the eggs and another 5/5 comes out the other end. And now Katharina comes out. This is looking really bad. I think Token Druid is about to buckle over.
Yeah, I do somewhat question that play from Vardu going for the Hunter's Mark on an opposing minion, where he could have gone for a Hunter's Mark on his cube to summon 2 more Devil Saws on that turn, which would have in turn also gained Rush. It's a close one. This is a little bit slower of a play, but I guess if you're winning every time anyway, you can afford to be a little bit greedier. You don't have to play quickly.
Right, and I think Vardu just wants to be patient. Doesn't want to, you know, overextend and also discount for something. Power of the Wild, though, on the Noyatrons.
It's a lot of damage.
Yeah. Fact. I think because he didn't go wide enough with his board with the Devil Swords, it might put him in an awkward scenario here. Oh,
Witchwood Grizzly, his absolute savior here.
Yeah, because I was looking at Branching Paths and Savage Roar.
It was a lot of damage.
Right, and if he didn't have a taunt, there'd still be 4 minions, which would have led to at least an extra 18 damage. That would have been just lethal.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah. Thanks, Frosty.
I think for Vardu, the trade to be made is just whatever takes the most attack power on the board. You can't afford to be messing about with taking value trades here. Because again, if you trade into that big old minion there with your cube, you can then kill it off on the following turn, thus getting you 2 more Devil Saws. As slow as that may be now that your Shaw's died, it's the best you got.
Right. This is still a lot of damage.
It is a pretty absurd amount of damage, considering how consistently behind RastaFish has been.
It's 30 damage just from what's on board, but of course, Vardu's at equivalent of 40. So Ghostface with 19 puts his opponent down to, what, 8? And Noyatron still won't die.
The onus is now on Vardu to find some way to defend himself.
Yeah.
Because as it currently stands, he's just dead.
He could find a taunt. Mossy Heart?
No, they still survive.
Oh no.
Can't gain any life with Gluttonous. He has to just look again.
He has to cube his Katharina to find a minion to survive. It's another Grizzly. Wow, talk about clutch. I mean, given the context of Vardu's hand, it seems like it's more on the lines of being just a regular recruit hunter from the past. Having Devil Swords and Witchwood Grizzlies in there. But man, is this one coming down to the wire. Because the thing is, RastaFish might die on the counter swing.
He needs to find some way to push through. Swipe can get him the ability to kill off the Grizzly.
Yes.
He'd then be taking 15, 18 damage on the following turn. There is the Annoyatron in the way, though.
Yeah, the Noyatron attacking in also means that he loses his defense.
I think it would be exact lethal on the backswing here, even with a swipe, because the 3/3 trades into the Annoyatron. You then have 15 on board, and then you add the cards in your hand, which brings it up to 23 damage, which is just lethal.
The math checks out.
And even after RastaFish was so close to pulling this back.
So the way to not die to that is what, swipe the 3/3? Or perhaps swiping and not attack.
He's just going for a lethal push here instead, which we can clearly see.
Yeah, it's still the same thing. And even Crush has that extra Kelset buff. It doesn't matter. Vardu's going to be able to come back, and that game was so intense. In the end, the Finnish player advances 4-0 to Rio Tabaton. And that is going to be the closing of round 4 here, as definitely some interesting dramatic twists.